All right, guys. So, anyone who knows me personally knows I'm a huge advocate for investing. I love talking about it, I love learning about it, but most importantly, I love actually doing it because I feel like I'm getting the most out of my money, right? Like, we work at least 5 days a week, oftentimes 6 or even 7 days a week, working a minimum of at least one job, oftentimes two or even three jobs. So we're breaking our backs working all week long just for a paycheck. And I'm like, why just go and spend that money if you have the ability to invest it, which will in return give you even more income? Like, I think investing is fantastic, and it's never been easier to actually do it. And I think just about everyone should invest their money. Depending on your financial situation, there are certain situations where I would recommend maybe holding off on investing, especially if you have like high interest debt. Um, but that's a conversation for another video. The thing I want to talk about today is my three favorite investments, specifically in the stock market. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. So the first and most important and my favorite investment in the stock market is the S&P 500. So what is the S&P 500? Basically, it's an index fund, and I'll kind of explain what that is in a moment. But in general, the S&P 500 is an index fund that basically holds the 500 largest companies in the US stock market. So think of it like this. You can purchase stock in Tesla, you can purchase stock in Apple, you can purchase stock in Amazon and Google and Walmart and Lowe's and Starbucks and all these other companies, right? You can go from company to company, you can buy stock in that company. Or if you buy the S&P 500, you just buy one share of the S&P 500 and you then own a very small portion of the 500 largest companies in the US stock market. So what's the benefit of this? Well, there's a couple benefits. Number one, and most importantly, you achieve instant diversification. What's diversification? It's basically when you spread your money amongst different assets and companies and equities so that if one company were to fail and go bankrupt and go out of business, you're not going to lose all your money, right? Like, hypothetically, let's say you invested in Starbucks and Starbucks goes out of business. All of that money that you invested, you could lose it all. Now, if you're invested in 500 different companies and Starbucks goes bankrupt, then you're only going to take a small hit because the rest of your money is spread amongst 499 other companies. So diversification is very important in investing, and investing in the S&P 500 allows you to achieve diversification very quickly. Now, what else? You're also able to save a lot of time when it comes to investing. Again, kind of piggybacking off that last point, if you had to go and buy a share in the 500 largest companies in the US stock market, it's going to take you some time to do that. You got to click on each company, got to go in there, you got to submit an order, you got to get the confirmation email, and then you move on to the next one. Or you could just buy that one share of the S&P 500 and then boom, you own all 500 companies. So that's number two. And number three, the reason I really like the S&P 500 is because it kind of takes the work and the emotions and all the other stuff out of investing. If you I think most people would be best if they just invested in the S&P 500 for decades. If you just consistently invest in the S&P 500 for years and years and decades, you'll probably end up doing pretty well, based on historical performance of the stock market. And you don't have to worry about stocks going up or stocks going down or trying to time things perfectly. If you just consistently buy, chances are you're going to do pretty well over the course of your investing career if you just stick with the plan. So that's why I really like the S&P 500. Specifically, I invest in VOO, So basically what that is it's Vanguard's ETF that tracks the S&P 500. So again, if you go onto any brokerage or any financial website and you just type in the letters V as in Victor, OO, often called VU, that's Vanguard's ETF that tracks the S&P 500. And if you buy a share of that, you technically own a very small portion of the 500 largest companies in the stock market. So that's number one, and by far my favorite investment in the stock market is VOO. Moving on to number two is going to be SCHD, and this is Schwab's dividend ETF. Now, the reason I like this ETF here is because it provides you with passive income, right? Like anytime I buy a share of SCHD, in the future, I will be receiving income back to me for simply owning that share. So it's a great way to put your money to work and earn truly passive income. You know, once I buy a share of this, I don't have to do anything else with it. Every quarter, which is every 3 months, I'll receive a dividend for simply owning that share. And when you own a lot of shares, it can really add up. So when you're first starting to invest in SCHD, you're really not going to be making that much money every quarter. I think the dividend yield is somewhere around 3.5. So if you have $100 invested over the course of a year, you're going to make like $3.50, which isn't a lot. But when you have thousands invested in SCHD, you can really start to see some money coming in every quarter. So I really like SCHD. It's great for passive income. It's not very volatile either. So when the market does really bad, SCHD isn't going to drop as much as a lot of other stocks and ETFs. But on the other end of it, when the market does really well, SCHD doesn't tend to grow as much as other stocks and other ETFs. So it's kind of a trade-off. But again, I primarily invest in it for the passive income, just because I like having that peace of mind knowing that I have some extra money coming in from another source of income. So that's number two, SCHD. And then third and finally is going to be Tesla. Now, this is a bit of a riskier investment. I say that because Tesla has been known to be volatile. You know, you have to be able to stomach the ups and stomach the downs. But just investing in single companies in general tends to be riskier than investing in ETFs and index funds like VOO or SCHD. Because again, similar to my example with Starbucks, if Tesla were to have really bad earnings, or maybe Elon tweets something terrible and the stock drops like 30%, that can happen. And, there's really nothing you can do about it. There's no diversification when it comes to your investment in that company, or in this case, in Tesla, because again, all the money is in Tesla. So if Tesla does bad, your money does bad. So it's definitely riskier. And when you're first starting out with investing, I wouldn't personally recommend investing in single companies, just because I think it's better to build a foundation of ETFs and index funds, just to get your sort of financial foundation together, and then you can start branching off into riskier investments. But I am a firm believer in Tesla. I really like what they're doing, their vision. I like the fact that they offer many different products and services. They're not just a car company. They're energy, AI, energy storage, insurance. They do a lot. And I do believe in Elon Musk. A lot of people may find him controversial, but I admire his work ethic, and I think he is destined to win, and he does not give up. I've never seen anyone as determined as him. And that's why I have money invested in Tesla, because although it's a riskier investment, I do believe it's going to continue to grow over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I'm willing to stomach that risk and ride those ups and downs in the stock price, because at the end of the day, I think I will benefit long-term from it. So that's why I invest in Tesla, and that's why I invest in all three of these. These three investments are the majority of my stock portfolio, with VOO being my largest holding by far. I have over 50% of my money in VOO. And for what it's worth, I do have money invested in other funds, but these are the main investments in my portfolio. They make up the majority of my asset allocation. Um, and that's just what I prefer for my risk tolerance, my goals, and my financial, aspirations, I guess you could say. But everyone has different goals, everyone has different knowledge, everyone has different thoughts on companies and strategies. So I just wanted to share kind of what I do with my investments and my money. It may give someone an idea where to get started or kind of motivate them to make their own decisions on their portfolio. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here and share that with you guys. If you guys are new here, please like, comment, and subscribe. I post every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and then Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to stay up to date on all that. I love talking about personal finance, life experiences, budgeting, credit cards, money, investments, all that kind of stuff. So be sure to stay tuned. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next one.